everyone, and welcome to another episode of VOXPOPcast. This is your host, JR.
And I'm Marius.
Marius, it's very nice to be back.
Definitely. We've been so busy these past months. Well, unfortunately, hindi kami nakakapag-record ng podcast. But we're back, and hopefully this coming 2022, we're gonna have more episodes. JR, can you tell us about what Vox Populi has been doing in the past few months? Para updated.
Yeah, so guys, for all our listeners, thanks for still listening to us and waiting for us to be back. Yeah, Vox Pop has actually been written for the past month. So just to give you an idea, we finished our second round of our Call of Writers. So you probably already saw the postings and the writings of our best random writers. And we also actually recently launched a series. And we have also joined Frankfurt International Fair. And actually this past week, we also finished writing the hip-hop editor. And we also did excerpts of our books for performance. So yeah, that's a lot of things that we did covered for the past months. Hopefully, we're gonna pick up with more projects, right, Marius?
Yes, thank you for that. We've been really busy. Some of the books from Vox Populi PH were exhibited in Frankfurt. We're working the background. Puro output lang makikita niyo. But yeah, let's talk about the central topic for today and our special guest. We have a special guest. We regularly feature our writers, but now we're going to feature someone from the South, and he's someone that I personally know, and I know this guy is a really good writer. Okay, so for our theme for today, we're gonna deep into a word that has evolved through the decades. Na kids nowadays say na sila ay nabudol when they buy something online, Lazada or Shopee. Pero saan ba galing ang word na budol? Bakit natin sinasabi na tayo ay nabudol? So that's an interesting point kasi from our perspective, we work with language every day. Okay, when we choose a word, it's actually a big decision. Lalo na ba you're doing a story or an essay, when we choose to title something this or that, there's a reason behind it. Pero in common or colloquial usage, people pick up terms all the time and they use it. Tapos the meaning changes. That's the nature of language. So we're going to talk about that and more. And I would like to introduce everyone to our guest for this episode, Mr. Jade Mark Capiñanes. Mr. Jade Mark Capiñanes is the author of 2 satire chapbooks and 2 fiction collections. He says that he likes memes and he creates some of them in his spare time. And according to him, his music taste is very much shaped by the YouTube algorithm. And to speak in the language of the Gen Z, etong si Mr. Jade Mark, siya yung tinatawag na Facebook certified personality kasi when he writes, people go really wild. And kasi nga, sabi ko sa inyo, he's a good writer. So welcome, Mr. Jade Mark, to the program.
Hi guys, thank you for inviting me, Sir Marius and JR. Mag-sir ba ako sa iyo? Marius na ba?
Kahit ano.
Okay. Sige tol. Salamat sa pag-invite. Salamat po sa pag-invite sa akin sa show niyo. And I'm very glad to be here kasi I've heard about you sa Vox Populi and the things you do. And ako kasi pina-follow ko lang din yung mga activities ninyo and I'm really actually rooting for you kasi it's very rare na yung mga young writers na sa atin sa Philippines are doing these things na very organized. So, ako, silent supporter niyo ako.
Thanks for that. Totoo yan. Maraming gusto magsulat sa Pilipinas na mga kabataan pero they don't have the direction unless makapasok sila sa academy. So usually merong delay. Halimbawa, nagsusulat ng high school tapos if by chance makapasok sa humanities program in college, dun ko lang na-formalize. So we're trying to fill that gap somehow. Like other indie groups, we are understaffed and ilan lang kami. Pero I think we're doing something. It's something. Okay, so Mr. JR, if you will,
Yes,
Can you
Mr.
can you
Marius.
can you start the discussion on Budol? Can you tell us about what you know of the term Budol? And do you use the word Budol?
I do actually. Pero as part of the older generation, I guess hindi na, obviously naabutan natin to specify or signify something. Pero noon kasi actually, I was young. I first heard this word that is Budol. Or actually Budol which is dragon. So they're basically sweet words. So doon ko nalaman na yung obviously negative connotation. Kasi the word is deception or to swindle someone, usually unfair. So yun yung how significant mo yung stories like encountered things. How about you?
Yeah, ako rin. Actually, yung first encounter ko sa word na budol is yung budol-budol ng gang nga. And actually nga, parang na-surprise din ako na right nowadays, ginagamit na siya as something na you have to flex. Diba? Nabudol ako nito, nabudol akong ganyan. Pero dati kasi, ang nakikita ko sa news lang, pag budol-budol gang, yun yung usual nila na ginagawa is parang mag-ask sila ng help from a stranger, tapos bibigyan daw ng reward, tapos yung naman stranger na di-deceive, tumutulong naman, and then he or she ends up having this, di ba, parang a bunch of money, pero pag inopen pala is a bunch of paper lang pala. So ganun yung parang technique nila, parang binubudol nila into thinking na magkakaroon ng reward, money usually, and then they end up having a bunch of paper, a pile of paper lang pala. So ganun. Hindi lang actually yung first encounter ko. Kaya nga very interesting sa akin yung naging semantic shift from something negative na ngayon sa mga positive na kasi nga piniflex natin.
Well, yeah, that's very interesting kasi ako, I grew up in Nueva Ecija, no? So, yung exposure ko to local culture obviously Nueva Ecija is not known for being comfortable or safe place. Actually, Nueva Ecija is known for takbuhan daw ng mga serial killer, that's Nueva Ecija I grew up with. Now, so maraming boogeyman doon. Tapos, unfortunately, these boogeymen were not really boogeymen. They really existed out there. One of them, yung mga, like what Jade said, men and women who approach other people asking for help. Tapos, eventually, they do something to swindle that person. Sa amin naman, it's a bit more exotic, I guess, kasi the usual modus is they would offer to buy jewelry or anything of value at they would say kaliwaan, meaning you give me the stuff, I give you a bag of cash. Ngayon, ang nangyayari, pag usually the victims are old people. Yung mabilis masway, pag uwi nila, ibibigay nila yung alahas, pagbukas ng bag, dyaryo pala. Yun. So, sa amin, merong element of hypnosis. The victims always say, para po akong na-hypnotize. So, nabudol po ako nung tao na yun. Hindi ko po maalala yung pangalan niya, hindi ko maalala yung mukha niya. So, as someone who is forced to write about hypnosis, kasi ako ay freelance writer, I know for a fact that it does work. Pagka, if the person trusts the other person, or impressionable siya, or mentally vulnerable siya, yung so-called hypnosis does kick in. And it's a childlike state. So, it makes sense why they get away. So, yun yung kinalakihan ko na definition ng budol. Alongside chop-chop lady, or yung mga nangkukuha daw ng bata na talaga nangyayari. Okay, so now we have established yung groundwork for the definition. We went back about 20 years. That's a lot of time for language. So, we jump to the present. We have the Gen Z. Kasi we are like 2 generations away na from, I'm a millennial. Paps is also a millennial. Jade, I think you're also a millennial, ano?
Yeah, millennial. Yung younger millennial. Kasi 1994 ako pinanganak.
Millennial ka. Oh, so,
yeah.
We're only ahead about 6 years siguro. Mga ganun lang. All right. So we're all millennials here. So we're basically wading into Gen Z territory pala. Okay. This is where my knowledge really is tested. What can you guys say about how the Gen Z appropriate language? Kasi we know how we operate, right? But how do the Gen Z?
Sige. I think I can answer that by i-relate ko sa memes, how they create memes. Kasi pansin nyo, yung mga Gen Z, yung memes nila is very out of context, like totally random. And yung humor nga noon is the randomness of it. And I think the way they use language is similar din. Kasi, di ba, from they contextualize kasi nila yung for example, yung iconography na, for example, yung sa mga memes na ginagamit nila, tinatanggal nila sa original context at ginagamit nila sa totally different context, and and the humor stems from there. I think sa language ganun din. So, tulad ng budol, tinatanggal nila sa original na very negative, even criminal sense of the word. And ngayon ginagamit nila for something, di ba, totally opposite, na positive na pala, and they want to flex about it. So ganun, I think that's Gen Z want, yung tendency ng Gen Z to decontextualize everything and to make it, to claim that as theirs, parang ganun.
Okay, so critical point there. You said na the way they claim language, the first step is decontextualization. So it makes sense. Kasi, always to the younger generation, the world doesn't make sense. And, to grab it by the horns, remove the meaning and ascribe your own meaning. What do you think, Mr. JR?
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a new phenomenon. I guess, we still have learn studies about it. Like from our generation, we're busy to the older generation. In the context of the martial law salvage, although it's not like a fun scenario, I don't think it's like unique to the Gen Z phenomenon. Pero the interesting thing is, obviously, yung meme culture, actually, memes itself, it didn't exist back then. So, I think the point here is parang they're claiming that or Gen Zs are basically claiming that narrative where they're taking ownership of meme culture, and that's where appropriation is.
Yeah, interesting point there, memes, in sociology, ang meme ay consider na dead culture. Na like before it even begins, it's dead. It's spectacle kasi. Well, although it can be historically traced, no one really does that. The same way na no one really uses classical literary theory anymore. Parang ganun siya eh. Parang it's dead even before it attempted to live. So does this mean na when the Gen Z take a term like that and turn it into something else, are they are they showing na they don't care? Ganun kaya? Meron kayang at the back of their minds, they don't care? O hindi naman?
Sige. Wait, so I think paradoxical siya kasi, diba, based on for example, kasi I'm a teacher and Gen Z yung mga students ko, pansin ko na very socio-politically aware. So I don't think they really don't care. Kasi they really care a lot about the issues that, that they experience nowadays. But at the same time, meron din kasing if you live, for example, Gen Z ka, na you live through all this, diba, climate crisis, diba, financial, diba, insecurity, lahat ng issues na ito, magkakaroon ka rin ng existential na crisis na what's the point, right? So I think very paradoxical siya kasi parang, di ba, kaya nga mga memes, may mga jokes yung mga Gen Z, di ba, na gusto pa na mamatay and so stuff like that. But at the same time, they really care a lot about these things. So parang paradoxical yung attitude nila towards things na they care, but at the same time they don't. Parang ganun.
I actually agree with Jade on actually, if you take a look at how these are created 10 years ago, right? mas, I think, more nonsense yung memes natin as to how, Gen Z create memes. It's very, may lalim na content. They tend to make memes out of anything, which is, I think, very, very good. And yun nga, definitely there's a realistic thread somewhere there kasi na like you mentioned. Although it started with us, millennials, na talagang ang pangit na yung already. Kasi like you mentioned na climate is worse and etc. Pero the back of that will fall obviously on the younger generation. So I think it's a good way for them to with their reality. Yeah, if you can't fight it, then make fun of it.
All right. I just top of my head, I just remembered na we millennials grew up in the era of mass media, not social media. Mass media meant only a few entities handled how information was distributed. You access information by buying newspaper, di ba? Or you buy a book, or you buy a textbook. Ganun lang. Or you receive folieto. Ngayon, with social media, information can be freely accessed. But the quality of the information needs to be vetted. It needs to be filtered. Kung noon, mahirap ang impormasyon, yung impormasyon naman, there's a bigger chance na accurate siya. Ngayon, going back to the point sa meme, I realized that the earliest memers, if you would apply to the concept, noong 80s and 90s, were the comic book artists, no? Halimbawa, Pugad Baboy, for example, A-Lipin by Jess Abrera, all these Sunday comic strips, sila lang kasi may capacity to create caricatures. So, for example, if they were to represent Marcos as someone who was bullying Filipinas for being stupid, for example. Sila lang yung may capacity. But now, everyone can do it. But, when you create memes now, the aim is not always clear kung bakit ginagawa yung meme. Is it for just to make friends laugh? Is it just because they're bored? Ganun, ano? Alright. A question for our guest, Jade. How do you think social media contributed to the general change in how words are appropriated? Halimbawa na lamang yung budol, no? I know you touched upon this earlier, but can you give us more based on your experience? Kasi you have a lot more experience with social media than us. Kami parang spectators na kami mostly, but you're in the middle of it. I see your posts; they explode all the time. So, yeah, can you give your insights, please?
Ayun, so i-relate ko lang siguro sa nasabi mo kanina na about dun sa yung information, na influx of information compared to when we were like 2 decades ago compared to now. Yun nga. And at the same time kasi because of that na democratize na yung ability to create information, to create content. And right now, yun, anyone can share stuff and we don't know nga kung sino what stuff yung sisikat or not. And so sa language, if i-relate mo yan sa language, nag-change din yung language, especially if may mga terms or phrases na naging meme, and because of that, diba, mas sumisikat siya, so mas nagagamit siya. And the more, that's the thing about kasi memes the more they become viral, the farther they become from this original source. So diba, original context. So siguro I think if I have to speculate, siguro naging yung budol, maybe started from that, maybe as a news article siguro, na budol-budol kang, and then someone used it as a joke, and then another one used it as a joke, or made it more absurd, until to the point na, yun, totally different na nga siya sa original niya na context. So if I have to speculate, I think that's how social media culture, particularly meme culture, affected the semantic shift the word budol has undergone. So yun yata yung guess ko about it.
I'm not sure if that's a guess kasi that sounds very good to me. That's pretty solid though. So talagang babalik tayo sa meme culture. And I have been seeing promotions from the platforms that offer online shopping, and they are using the term, they are promoting the concept na, uy, magpabudol ka na, or what's your budol find today? I see those ads all the time. I also use online shopping platforms. Was there a time na parang, ay, ba't ko ba binili to? Very few. Siguro it's an age thing, so talagang, if you're reflexive about these things, you can really attribute it to shifting cultural norms, perhaps shifting attitudes about consuming things. Yun siguro. Kasi when I buy stuff, I really need it. Like I need it yesterday, so I'm ordering it online so I can get it. Pero sila hindi. There is this almost an indulgent attitude about buying online. It's like retail therapy transmodified into an online experience. Although, tangentially, are people after the online experience, or are they after receiving the goods? Kasi these are two different things. The simulation on the platform and actually getting stuff. Kasi pag may disconnect that's why they say nabudol ako, kasi when they receive it, obviously parang yung level of satisfaction drops. Bakit kaya? You guys have any idea?
For me, it's more of the power of words, taking the power. Kasi when people use the term, it softens the blow of the account. When nabulol ako, pero at the same time, it's your will. You actually decide to buy it. So, when people say the word budol, they're ascribing in a way in relation to the shopping experience. I'm saying, it's not 100% because of the online shopping experience. So, ganun. But at the same time, the accountability is there. And I'm not sure if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. Ikaw, Jade, what do you think? Accountability daw. Accountability with being a consumerist first.
Yan. Ako naman, I think part din sa yung paglakas ng budol phenomenon, especially yung mga binibilingan natin sa mga shopping ganyan, is babalik kasi tayo sa sa corporate or capitalist na na pag bibigay sa atin or pag inganya sa atin ng mga corporations to buy stuff. So I think it's a combination of fad caused by corporations doing things, advertising, hyper commercializing things, and ako kasi personally nabudol din ako, quote-unquote nabudol din ako kasi I joined this Kindle group sa Facebook. So, a few months ago, because of all the stuff I saw, na yung ganda pala ng Kindle, ganyan. So, quote-unquote nabudol din ako. But at the same time, I mean that not in a negative way talaga. I'm using it nabudol because they convinced me, parang hindi deceive eh. They didn't deceive me to buy a Kindle. They convinced me to buy a Kindle because I need it actually. And to be honest, in the long run, I think I would save up kasi I buy books right now. I just, digital books na binabasa ko. So, yeah, I think it's, combination siya, of course, ng corporate power. Plus, at the same time, nagkakaroon din, diba, in any situation naman, any buying situation, nasa consumer pa rin yung choice kung ano talaga yung bibiliin niya or not. And I think naman, nung nabudol ako ng Kindle, hindi naman ako masyadong nagsisi.
Speaking of Kindle, alam mo, tumitingin din ako ng Kindle and those prices are really good right now. So, baka one of these days willingly mabudol din ako. Even though wala naman nagko-convince sa akin. Pero convince ko lang yung sarili ko. Alright. So, wow, we've covered a lot of ground in such a short time. We should do this more often.
Actually, I would like to add on those things. Actually, it's a good point. Sa social psychology kasi, parang there's a concept. Sino ba talaga yung like when goods or products are being media, parang there is a disconnect. You already have a choice. For instance, if you're being bombarded with stimuli, diba? And parang yun nga, these corporate clients are making it seem like ito lang yung options. And you're really to buy that. And so I guess in a way, yes, you're still accountable for your own actions. So at the end of the day, maglalagay sa cart mo for being check. And at the same time, you're bombarded with so much and then parang puro cost per in a way, parang syempre, if baka mahubunin.
Yeah, and to add to that, Pax, one of the key characteristics of capitalism, it always creates illusion of choice, lalo na sa late capitalist society. What people no longer see is these choices are syempre driven by the market. Parang, halimbawa, I have a choice to fly to ganito or fly to ganyan. Meron akong choice for staycation and, who's mediating the choice? Airbnb, PAL, and in between the taxi corporations, how do you get there, Grab. Yun talaga eh. So that's capital literally inscribing the empire of signs on the landscape and the person and the people. So, yung accountability siguro, from my perspective lang is at one point you have to resist. Halimbawa if something over glorifies something else na hindi naman talaga dapat i-glorify. For example, Ferdinand Marcos must not be glorified, but people are glorifying him. And it's the same meme culture na pinanggalingan ng Budol. Pinanggagalingan ng memes din about the Marcoses, and people feel empowered by lies. For example, si Marcos daw ay treasure hunt. May ganyan na eh. Kasi from magnanakaw, naging Indiana Jones bigla si Ferdinand Marcos. So, which I don't understand kasi the information is already out there. And yet people are holding on to these things. Very complex, very complex. Anyway, it seems that we've dug like 1,000 miles under the ground, and we got the very heart of how the Budol phenomenon actually was birthed. It was birthed by several factors. Meme culture, the disconnect between this generation and the last generation. Siguro lack na rin of familiarity of how things went ng time natin. It's fair. They were born, they weren't around during our time. Nung merong budol-budol gang everyday sa newspaper. And, nakakatakot lumuwas sa Maynila kasi baka mabudol-budol. May ganun eh. Ayan. Okay. Any more insights from you guys? Ako, I'm good.
I would like to ask you, in politics, lumalabas na bakit nabubudol? So very general.
Gusto ko sagutin yan. I-relate ko sa na-mention ni Marius kanina about, diba? Kay Marcos nga, diba? Diba, kanina na-mention ko yung naging semantic shift ng Budol, from a negative denotation, right? Na ginagamit na siya somehow positive. Parang nag-ameliorate na nga kasi people are flexing na nga pag nabubudol sila. Kung i-relate natin sa politics kasi we can say in a sense na nabubudol din yung supporter ni Marcos sa kanya sa mga fake histories or mga fake narratives about him, turning the Marcoses from crooks to this Indiana Jones character. What I'm really interested here in here is that, from a negative meaning kasi of budol, ngayon, may element of willingness na. Kasi piniflex mo na budol ako nito. Bakit kaya? That's my question. Bakit from something na deception is something bad? Bakit ngayon, very all too willing na yung mga tao magpa-deceive? Is it, do we have to go back to this psychoanalytical na principle na we hold on to fantasies or illusions because otherwise reality is so overwhelming or unbearable. Because we hold on to these lies because otherwise we're proven wrong. Ganun ba yung does that explain this phenomenon?
Wow. Very happy you opened that. Kasi, if we're gonna do psychoanalysis, let's go all out. Let's do Lacan. And according to Lacan, ayan, the shifting symbolic order of the acceptable and the unacceptable, of the self and the other. Taking everything you said, Jade, what we're seeing is some people, and I hope kaunti lang talaga sila, considering the Marcoses not as the other, but as the self, and as the father, and the I. So, what does this mean? To be reasonably doubtful of some folks. Maybe they consider what Marcos did as justified, or good, or acceptable. Yeah, go back.
For me, umabot na sa point, it's almost like a shared delusion. And I don't want to bring the concept of religion. Pero, yung parang budol na nangyari, it's almost like a religion. Na there's faith, pero there's no logic. There's what you believe in. Not as an individual, but kasi to be part of a community. Na budol din. Be part of that this community can be your friends and you're willing to subject yourself sa kabog. Ayun yung nakikita ko, especially if you take a look at more cosmologists being usually around the same region, whether part of the same community, part of the same region, etc. It's almost like a shared delusion.
Biglang mabigat siya. No? Pero I think this is a necessary dimension of our discussion. Kasi, to be blunt about it, there is a cultic element to how groups of people are supporting the Marcoses. And Ferdinand Marcos has been dead for several decades. He's holding power, the idea of bagong lipunan, and the idea now that he's a treasure hunter and all their money actually is legitimate because it was found in somewhere. I come from a province na mahirap. So maraming kwento-kwento dyan. One of the kwento na pick up ko when I was younger was Marcos supposedly buried gold bullion sa Nueva Ecija. So people were actually building roads and bridges kasi naguhukay sila in secret. So, the idea that they are treasure hunters and they have hidden wealth taken down from the Americans or the Japanese is actually very old. It's a persistent myth. And siguro, hindi ko maintindihan, do people want a part of that gold? Do they believe na at one point maambunan sila like ingots of gold? I don't know. It's hard to explain. And sila mismo, they don't have an explanation. They just believe. In the same breath na I believe in God, or I believe in the Virgin Mary. I believe in Marcos. So what are we looking at here? so
biglang heavy ng discussion. Kanina pa memes na tayo eh.
I don't know if I'm going to be like a negative lens kasi the only explanation is the only explanation kasi parang you don't want to be wrong, so you want to put this in this is what's happening, or this is what I'm going to accept, kasi otherwise the alternative is there. Yeah, I don't know, honestly. Ito yata yung contest na discussion, pero conclusions. There's no right answer. It's a question is too
This is one of those podcast episodes na darkness just descends upon everyone.
With this new concept of I want to ask kasi diba, nung negative yung terminology, you'll never blame the victim. The victim is the victim. That person was lazy. Pero ngayon, with this new Budol, yung mga binigyan na pamawan sa shopping, is people still believing like party here. Would you consider them as victims?
No, I won't. Kung kasi I don't consider myself a victim naman when I buy stuff. Tapos parang meron akong buyer's regret. Drama na lang siguro nila yan. Ikaw, Mr. J, what do you think?
Kasi may willingness na may willingness na to buy it, and siguro na may sense of accountability na rin talaga. So if ginawa nila, if pinili nila or naniwala sila doon, even if they had this, may mga warnings or may mga choices pa na iba na pinili talaga nila. So I think accountable din naman sila if ginawa talaga.
Alright. So are the two gentlemen satisfied with the discussion? Or do we dig further? Baka mamaya.
If we dig further, they're making a philosophical discussion.
Actually,
Let's fine. We're trying to delve away from that.
sabi na babalik din tayo dito eh.
May theory na eh. I was actually counting down. Okay, may nag-mention na ng theory. Okay, here we go.
Pero it's amazing na from this phenomenon, Budol nga na we can enter it from different perspectives, philosophical, economic, di ba? That just shows na yung mga, memes or any fad on social media, they really reflect realities that we live through. Kasi that's why we don't have to dismiss them. Yeah, yung mga ganitong mga phenomenon. Very important din talaga na talakayan.
Never dismissive. Always critical. And with that, I think, guys, for the current episode of VOXPOPcast, we have succeeded in defining, more than just defining the term Budol and the Budol phenomenon. And we hope you guys enjoyed this episode kahit na mabigat yung damdamin namin toward the end. And Mr. Jade, do you have anything to promote, like a site, your books, anything? Where can people find you? How can they send gifts?
Alala naman, gusto ko lang naman, masarap yung dinner ng lahat. Nakakain na sana kayong lahat, ganun. And if you want to see some of my stuff, Facebook lang. Follow niyo lang ako sa Facebook. Jade Mark Capiñanes.
Awesome. Please follow Jade Mark Capiñanes on Facebook. He has a lot of good stuff there. Tapos malay natin, by next year, he may be writing more. Alright, this is Marius from VOXPOPcast. Maraming salamat po sa pakikinig with my partner, Mr. Paloma.
Good night, everyone.
And thank you, everyone.